The Cincinnati Reds have been rumored to be looking to trade for multiple lineup additions, but they all ask one key question about Matt McLain.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. Thank you very much for you doing your part to help get us there. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. In fact, we love it so much, we've been talking about these Cincinnati Reds in podcast form for a combined 14 seasons. We love talking about baseball. We love talking about the Reds, and we love talking about those things with you. On today's podcast, a little bit later, we're going to get into the fact that Elly De La Cruz is going to be playing for a different team come spring training. Yeah, you heard me right. But don't panic. He'll be back with the Reds for opening day. We'll get into that here in just a little while. We're also going to dig into the fact that the Cincinnati Reds front office and ownership group have a very serious messaging problem. We're going to unpack what's been said, how they're trying to backpedal it, what it all really means. We're going to get into all of that here in just a few minutes. But where we are going to start is the Cincinnati Reds have been linked to not one, but two trade targets that both play second base. What does that mean for Matt McLain? We're going to tell you on today's episode that is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Okay, Jeff Carr, let's dig into this because, I took you out behind the woodshed the other day for your send Matt McLain down takes from last year, and I like to have fun with that. And, the bottom line is Matt McLain's going to play and be in the starting lineup for this team.
Right.
But then we start hearing some trade rumors, and you hear one, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. That guy plays second base. And then you hear another, and you're like, hey, that guy plays second base also. So that means the guy that plays second base is going to have to play somewhere else. And conveniently for the Cincinnati Reds, the guy that's currently playing second base used to be a center fielder in college. And I think the writing could be on the wall with that particular move.
Yeah, it's intriguing that there have been a lot of trade rumors with different players for the Reds and all this other stuff. And all along, there's been this underlying report that I've seen Ken Rosenthal talk about. I've seen Mark Sheldon talk about, whether local or national, they're all saying this, that the Reds understand they have players with positional flexibility. So they believe they have flexibility when it comes to adding other talent. Now, I will say, whenever I hear reports like that, I'm like, well, yeah, Spencer Steer can play in the outfield, so you could probably get you a first baseman. Or, Spencer Steer. I didn't think Matt McLain because, well, Matt McLain's experience in center field does not extend to the professional baseball diamond. It's back in college, and it's not been recent for him. So, okay, there's that. But then also the two guys that they're linked to, Ketel Marte from the Arizona Diamondbacks and Brandon Lowe from the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Brandon Lowe is one of those funny guys because, like, the way that his last name is spelled exactly like another Lowe on the Tampa Bay Rays roster, and he pronounces it Lowe, and Brandon Lowe pronounces it Lowe. So that's the funny part there. But Brandon Lowe does have outfield experience earlier on in his major league career, so there could be some credence given to that if he were to be acquired by the Reds. But it's interesting that they're looking at second baseman here because it feels like there are options out there on the open market in the outfield. There are options out there on the open market at first base. There are options in the trade market in the outfield. And so now we're looking at second baseman. Like this is sort of strange to me. And I kind of think that these two rumors are at least lower than the other ones, a little bit less likely than the other ones, but it tells me that they are okay with the idea of moving Matt McLain where they weren't okay with moving another guy who plays another position there in the middle infield.
What's interesting is what's interesting. The Reds being so just staunchly we are not moving Elly De La Cruz, which is probably the easiest, best move of an infielder to the outfield right now.
Most athletic guy on the team.
Them moving Matt McLain instead is a little bit interesting for a couple reasons. Number one, he does have a recent refresher in the outfield. I take you back to not this last one, but the previous Arizona Fall League, where he was asked to play outfield because they just wanted to get him at bats, air quotes around that, sir.
No, you're right.
He has played outfield recently for this organization. So, you know, and he handles it just fine. So that being said, moving Matt McLain to this outfield cements that you have one of the, what did you call it in prep? One of the lighter hitting outfields, to put it nice.
Yes.
Outfields. Because the question then
TJ Friedl left.
TJ Friedl moves to left field. And you need, listen, if this is the outfield, if this is the opening day outfield, if it's Friedl, McLain, Marte, Noelvi, Marte, they compare him to Manny. He needs to be Manny. He needs
you got to be Manny
and Manny Ramirez all rolled into one, because somebody out there has got to be able to hit the ball far.
When I think too, like, this just brings me back to the point that I started this offseason with: go get an outfielder who is an outfielder. The Reds seem to have this mentality of, have you either from this point in today all the way back through like a past life played in the outfield, then you too could be a Cincinnati Reds outfield, because that's what this feels like. Like, they're just like, well, you know, Matt McLain has stood out there in Glendale and Goodyear and all that, so obviously he could do that 162 times for us. And, you know, I mean, obviously Great American Ballpark, but when we go to Colorado, if we go to Seattle, if we go to San Francisco, he could be a fine center fielder. Like, that is such a different thing to say. Billy Hamilton showed us this. Billy Hamilton was another worldly athlete, but it took him time to move from second base to center field, because the first couple of years he was a little rough around the edges. Now, albeit Billy Hamilton was amazing with the glove and he figured it out. But I'm saying that I feel like he's like the top range of this. To ask Matt McLain to do what Billy Hamilton did, he is nowhere near the athlete that Billy Hamilton was. I mean, he's still a really good athlete, but he's nowhere near the athlete that Billy Hamilton was. So there's a lot that he would have to do. So I feel like these rumors specifically, and, you know, we could talk about what they would cost to trade. I know my friend Dana Biggs over at Locked On Diamondbacks has been talking about, you know, the idea of the Diamondbacks trading Ketel Marte, and his thought process on that is the other team would have to lose the trade for them to get Ketel Marte from the Diamondbacks. So I just don't see that happening.
Have you seen the potential packages that are floating around out
starts
there?
With Hunter Green.
It starts with Hunter Green. Happening. That's where I was going. It starts with Hunter Green. So, you know, are you willing to trade Lodolo plus? Because if you dig your heels in and we are not trading Hunter Green, well, are you trading Nick Lodolo and Chase Petty and a something and maybe another little lower bit something to get Marte? I don't know. I think that
they're looking for pitch.
The Tampa trade of it all is a little bit more interesting, but you'd be bringing in a guy who last season was 1.9 in wins above replacement in Lau. But the 2 years before that, he was 2.1, 2.4, perfectly fine. You know, OPS plus over the last 3 years, 112, 121, 116. That's an upgrade. That's an upgrade in the lineup. That's an addition to the Cincinnati Reds lineup.
Now we can argue about defense. He's not great at defense, but still, like, and the other part about this is
he's not going to cost you. Where I was going with that is he's not going to cost you like a trade with the Diamondbacks will cost you. So I would be much more open to finding a deal with the Rays, bringing in Lau. You move Matt McLain to center field. The other piece, though, for me to be okay with Matt McLain being your everyday center fielder is that left field spot with TJ Friedl. I need them to go get me a guy like Miguel Andujar to come in and supplement that. I need that guy as my fourth outfielder. You can't just be like, well, the outfield is on. We've got the outfield. No, because if you continue to run Nick Krall out there talking about Blake Dunn and his growth as an outfielder,
trust me,
then we've got problems.
Sure. Yeah, we're gonna get into that because all the things that are being said. But no, and the other key thing about these two players, Brandon Lowe is 31, Ketel Marte is 32. We're not talking about guys that are like super young. So if you are offering up Hunter Green in a deal, let's be talking to Boston about Jarren Duran and not be talking to Arizona about Ketel Marte. But even then, I'm just not that interested in any kind of trade that involves Hunter Green. Like if we're starting with that, then I'm hanging up the phone, period. But I think this is intriguing because this just means that Matt McLain would be on the move if they were to acquire a second baseman. But that just brings me to the point of it all, and something that has bugged me ever since the offseason has began, and that is the fact that it feels like this front office has a messaging problem. I love Game Time. I use Game Time all the time, whether I'm going to a game tonight or I'm going to a game 6 months from now. Game Time has you covered because they've got great last-minute deals, and they show you the all-in pricing up front before you ever add the ticket to your cart. Or if you're tracking an event like, say, opening day, then you can set price alerts for it, and they will alert you whenever prices drop so that you can take advantage of the best available prices. Plus, if you're going somewhere you've never been, they show you your view from your seat. Steve and I use this app all the time, especially during baseball season, but football season as well. I use it to go to Cyclones games during hockey season. Game Time is awesome. You've got to download Game Time today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's Game Time and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen every single day. Look, you already live the Reds every single day. You live Locked On Reds every single day with us. Now make sure you go check out the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. It's over on lockedonreds.supercast.com. I keep wanting to say Substack, Steve. I don't know why. lockedonreds.superstack.com. And you can get ad-free episodes. You can get a members-only Locked On Reds Discord. A lot of great stuff for you over there. lockedonreds.supercast.com. You're going to do this from now on because I apparently can't say it. I'm looking at it, and I keep saying it anyway. Messaging, Steve. It's a thing that we all have problems with to some degree.
That could not have been timed better. Messaging.
Messaging. It's something that we all struggle with in different parts of our lives. Communication is never a thing that we all have a 100% perfect grasp on. I begrudge that. We're human. That's exactly what we do. But the Reds front office seems to be uniquely bad at it because of how they have handled the offseason up to this point. And there are multiple examples that we will get into with this, but it's been a rough go of it early on in the offseason so far.
It has. And look no farther than the immediate aftermath of Kyle Schwarber signing with Philadelphia. We hear from the Reds almost immediately. No. We are not expanding the payroll. No. We're a draft and development team. And Nick Krall had look, I don't even know what term to put on this. We'll just go with audacity because it's podcast friendly for the family. But he had the audacity to come out yesterday and say, look, we told you guys, we've been up front what the budget is, what the payroll is. We weren't expanding the payroll for Kyle Schwarber. We were just going to get creative in order to, the number was going to get bigger. That is an expansion of payroll. Like there's no way to spin that was not an expansion of payroll. And then if you don't spend that money now on somebody else, then you, in fact, were willing to expand payroll for Kyle Schwarber, and now you're not willing to expand payroll. This is not hard. There is no spin zone possible for you to say we weren't going to expand payroll. So the problem for me is, number one, Nick Krall should no longer be allowed to talk. He has demonstrated season after season after season that he cannot keep the great value shoes out of his mouth. Shout out to Rico Suave for the great value shoe meme. But you can't continue to let him be the voice of this franchise because I get that the Castellans give him his marching orders and he's trying to do the best he can to say, guys, my hands are tied by Phil and Bob without saying, guys, my hands are tied by Phil and Bob. But you can't let him talk anymore. It's time to get like a professional spokesman to come out here and talk for this team because it's terrible. And as mad as the things they do make me, it pisses me off that much more when Nick Krall looks in a camera and like tries to lie to me. And that's a big part of the problem. Like, if you just tell me how things are, I can decide for myself if I want to continue to support or if I don't. But if you come out and try to like give me a bunch of garbage, if you try to use car salesman me to keep me around, that really ticks me off.
Well, and I feel like it's tough because I feel like we could hammer him just about every time he talks, because there are easy things that he could have said instead of what he said. Like, instead of telling us like, well, this is how we would have manipulated the payroll and this and that and the other. We don't care about the details, Nick. Just tell us you're going to make the team better. Whatever it is you're going to do, just say, look, this move didn't work out. We are working on other things to improve the team. Boom. That's all you got to say. Had he said that, I think we all would have felt a lot better. But because of the things that he had said, even leading up to the decision day, because remember, there were quotes of him, I think it was like either Sunday or Monday, before Kyle Schwarber made his decision, of Nick Krall once again telling the media that the Reds really, their goal is to break even when it comes to the budget and things like that. I have heard so much about the Cincinnati Reds budget and about the Cincinnati Reds financials, and I have heard so little about they're actually going to make the team better that it's made me jaded about what they could do this offseason. So it's easy. It should have been easier for him to just say, look, we are going to pivot. We're going to make this team better. We have other options that we can explore, because that's true. There's so many other options out there right now on the free agent market, on the trade market, whatever it be. That's not a fabrication. That's all he needed to say. And so then you fast forward a little bit, because now we see after the trade, Jeff Passan had an article immediately announcing Kyle Schwarber's decision. And in his article, he said that the Reds were unwilling to meet the financial demands of Schwarber, which I think we all understood was the case. But for some reason, on Wednesday, Bob Nightingale had an article for USA Today, and in that article, he said, oh, the Reds wanted to match the Phillies' offer. It's just Kyle Schwarber really wanted to go to Philadelphia. Those two things are not the same. And so for me, that kind of feels like a little bit of scrambling.
Before you continue on from there, I hear you, but I think there two things can be true at the same time. Their messaging is bad, and their communication of this is bad, but that could be kind of true. I know. Okay, bear with me. That could be kind of true, because the Phillies offer is, here, come play for us for 5 years. We will give you this much money. The Reds offer was more along the lines of, come play for us for 5 years. We'll give you this much money, but we'll create opportunities for you to make this much money over here, incentives, backloading, whatever it is that they're going to do. So while at the end of the day, you could earn up to the same, I think the offer wasn't quite right between, if there's a fall off in Philadelphia, Kyle Schwarber is going to make $150 million. If there's a fall off in Cincinnati, Kyle Schwarber is not going to make $150 million. I think that was the difference. I truly believe that Kyle Schwarber entertained the Cincinnati Reds offer, and I'm a little confused about him coming forward and being like, I was really impressed and all these things.
Yeah, I don't need that.
But that could just be the guy that I hope it's true. I hope it's true. But back to this team's messaging, though, because these all become parts of the problems. They have, for the last several things that Nick Krall has talked to us about, done this thing where he comes out and he talks, and we've covered it multiple times on this very podcast, where I say he's going to be in damage control mode tomorrow. Oh boy, yep. He's regretting saying that. And sure enough, we see him come out the next day and try to walk things back, try and change things. And that's why I'm saying they should probably stop letting him talk. They need either, let Brad do it. Maybe Brad will be better at talking than Nick is. The other piece of it, the other thing the Reds do that really ticks me off in this regard, Jeff, is when they use the team-owned media to try to create a narrative, to try to spin, to get the team. And when I say team-owned, I'm talking about the broadcasters. I'm talking about Sadak. I'm talking about Chris. I'm talking about Cowboy. I'm talking about Tommy
contract, or
Jim
like a shared
Day.
Contract, yeah.
At the end of the day, the team controls that business. And look no farther than the Reds Hot Stove League show that was on last night with Tommy Thrall, because you and I talked. It's all a jumble now, the number of shows and things like that. But we talked about take that money immediately that you were offering Kyle Schwarber and go talk to Pete Alonso. Go talk to him. Well, that's what Baltimore did. That's the exact thing that Baltimore did. And now Alonso plays for the Orioles. And Tommy Thrall comes out on the Reds Hot Stove League last night and says, well, Alonso wouldn't have been a good fit for the Reds anyway. First off, I hope that the Reds are paying for Tommy to get a massage today because carrying that water for the Reds has got to have made his back sore. You're telling me that a 30-year-old designated hitter / first baseman that last season hit 272, 347, 524 with 38 home runs and 126 RBIs is not a good fit for the Cincinnati Reds? You're telling me that a guy that has an OPS plus last season of 144, 44% better than the league average is not a good fit for the Cincinnati Reds? Man, Tommy, boy, you really.
He's younger than Schwarber, and he plays a position unlike Schwarber. Like, it's like, and to Jim Day's credit, they were both talking about this, and Jim Day was like, I'm not gonna say that he's
maybe
not.
You know what it is?
I think they could use him.
It's what it is. They didn't like the fact that Pete Alonso has played 162 games in the last 2 seasons. They didn't want to show up Elly. It wouldn't be a good fit to show up Elly.
I think it's hilarious because there are key upgrades out there, and the Reds could go get those key upgrades. And yeah, you're right. Like Kyle Schwarber coming out and saying, I was impressed by the Reds offer. That kind of feels like the girl that breaks up with you and says, but look, you got a really nice car.
We can still be friends.
Yeah, we can still be friends. It's like, Kyle, we understood that. You didn't need to say it. It's fine. Like, just go play in Philadelphia and have fun over there. But like,
all right,
no,
enough of all this. Enough of all this. Let's, speaking of Elly De La Cruz, let's, on the flip side here, Elly De La Cruz is going to be playing for another team come March. We'll tell you what we mean coming up next.
There's no better way to enjoy a football game than to bet it live with FanDuel. And all you have to do is check out all the different lines that they have, because as the game goes along, point spreads change, totals change, money lines change, even player prop bets change. And FanDuel is all over it. If you want to get in live on the action in every single football game for the rest of the season and even in the playoffs too, FanDuel has you covered. Like right now, the line for the Bengals, they're 2.5-point home dogs to the Ravens this Sunday. I don't know about that one because it kind of feels like the Ravens are frauds. But the question will be, are the Bengals still in this? I think Joe Burrow will still keep them in this, but 2.5-point dogs is interesting at home. The live lines are going to be crazy. Got to check it all out over on FanDuel. Download that FanDuel app today and get in on all of the live betting fun.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, guess what? You can take us on the road with you. We are on every single podcasting app that's out there, audio-wise. You can take us in the car, take us to the gym, take us wherever you need us to be. Just subscribe in the audio feeds, just like you're subscribed right here on YouTube. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, Jeff. Heck of a tease there that I did. Elly De La Cruz is going to be playing for another team come March, but it's true, because Elly De La Cruz has announced that he is going to be participating in the World Baseball Classic, playing for the Dominican national team, which is going to be fun to watch. What are your thoughts on the WBC, Jeff?
I love the WBC. I love the idea of kind of reshuffling the players and attaching them to countries. I think it's a little interesting where some of the players end up playing for, like, when it Jabot, didn't he pitch for like the Italian team or something like that? Or I forget
the English team. He was pitching for English
team.
Yep.
Was Ian Jabot, and there's some different ones like that it's like, sure, yeah, I understand it. But I like that they do this whole tournament thing. And I like that they do it during spring training. I know that there's some people that want to like poo-poo it and say, man, it's taken away from valuable. No, like, you're putting them in an actual game environment and you're getting them ready for the regular season. So I do kind of like that. And you see a lot of fun stuff. The Dominican team is going to be really, really good. Like, Elly De La Cruz might be like the 4th or 5th best player on that team, but he's got a chance to really show out in front of a national crowd, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
There's a couple things with the WBC. I like that, I like it. I like that they do it. It's fun from a fan standpoint. It's not without its risks of injury, but guys can get hurt in spring training also. We saw Edwin Diaz get hurt celebrating in a WBC game a few years back. And he's not quite ever been the same since then. I mean, he's still great, don't get me wrong, but a little bit different since then. The other thing is with the pitchers specifically, while there are a lot of rules built into how the pitchers are used in the WBC, those pitchers are pitching. They're out there getting real at
there's
bats
leverage
facing
involved.
hitters.
Right.
There is. And so, how does that impact them in September when they've got that extra mileage on their arm? Baseball thinks not that much. It'll be something interesting to watch. And I hope that not a lot of Reds pitchers are involved in this, because we clearly need every single inning that we can squeeze out of every single arm in 2026. But overall, especially from the hitter's standpoint, as much as I don't like that fact for the pitchers that these are real at bats, I love it for the hitters, because by the time the players that are in the WBC get to opening day, they're dialed in already. They've been seeing real pitches at a major league level for this duration versus what they see in spring training, which is single A guys, just so they can get their work in. You know what I mean? So it's a lot different at bat in March than they would normally get. So I love that for the hitters. I don't like it so much for the pitchers, but for a fan experience, for the baseball that we get to watch, love the WBC.
That's a good point, because I even think back to when I played baseball in high school. I got way more from batting practice off of live pitching than I ever got off of a machine. And I'm sure it's the same way for like a Major League Baseball player in spring training. They have live BP, but this is like an upscale live BP where like you're in front of the crowd, you've got high stakes, runners in scoring position, all that stuff. Like you can simulate that stuff all you want in spring training. It's just different when you're in a game environment. And like, if it's a situation where it's the Dominican against USA and Elly De La Cruz is up with runners in scoring position and he's got, I don't know, like maybe Hunter Green's on the mound against him, that could be kind of fun. Actually, we see a Red face a Red, like that'd be fun to see. But those different things really seem to benefit the hitters quite a lot. And so I'm hoping that we just see him kind of get jump started a little bit in this. And I'm not worried. I know that there's probably people that are thinking about, well, is he healthy? Is the other leg ready to go? I think he's going to be ready to go. He wouldn't be playing in the WBC if he wasn't.
Well, I don't think the Reds would let that happen either.
No.
The team ultimately has a say in this, and they've already said that they've announced it. Elly's playing in the WBC. So I love that for him. Interestingly enough, Jeff, baseball got this one right, and they were arrived at it before some of the other leagues. We've seen other professional leagues like hockey, as an example, go to this format as well, where, the NHL no longer has the All-Star weekend, but instead they do the Tournament of Nations. And if you watch that thing last year, Team USA versus Team Canada with like 3 fights in the first 90 seconds, that they were playing for real, folks. And I love that. And we've seen that in the WBC also. These aren't just, friendly exhibition games. Teams take these games seriously. And I think ultimately that's better for the players. It's better product on the field. It's better for the fan experience. I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to it, just because it gets us meaningful baseball sooner, I think, versus having to wait till opening day.
I agree. And I think it's funny because I do know that there are plenty of people that do not share that enthusiastic opinion of the WBC, but I'm not one of them. I'm looking forward to watching this and seeing how Elly plays in that. And one other thing, and I didn't know if we were going to get to this, but I did see this. The Reds did pick 2 minor leaguers in the Rule 5 draft. They did get a lefty who spent a tiny bit of time in AAA last season. Nate Peterson is his name. Both guys, oddly enough, minor leaguers that they picked out of the Milwaukee Brewers organization. Maybe a little bit of jealousy there. Don't know. But they got him, Nate Peterson, left-handed pitcher, and first baseman Xavier Warren. Xavier spelled with a Z, not with an X. He spent the last 4 years at AA, though. I'm not necessarily sure that there's going to be much out of him, but Nate Peterson might be a name to watch as we get into spring training. Might be a guy that we see in some spring training games, and maybe a guy that we see at some point later on this season in the major leagues. If he develops a little bit more, his strikeout rate isn't the best, and his walk rate is still a little bit troublesome. So like, you don't have that mix of lots of strikeouts, but also lots of walks. It's just lots of walks, not a lot of strikeouts. So we'll see if that develops, but there's a reason these guys were available in the minor league draft. And when you pick a minor league player in the Rule 5 draft, they're in your organization, like period. There's no prerequisite like if you pick a major league player.
Yeah, they don't have to go on the 40-man roster, and they don't have to be in the big leagues.
Right. Because with the big league side, and this is another reason I wanted to talk about this, the Reds did lose, air quotes, Roddery Munoz. Roddery Munoz was a guy that they got off waivers from the Cardinals. This guy's made a bit of a journey. Roddery Munoz was on the St. Louis Cardinals at the beginning of the offseason. Cardinals waived him. The Reds picked him up off waivers. The Reds non-tendered him. The Reds signed him back on a minor league deal, and he got picked by the Houston Astros in the Rule 5 draft. So he has to be on the Houston Astros active roster all year long, or the Astros must offer him back to Cincinnati for $50,000. So there's a chance he's coming back, and I don't know. It's kind of funny to see how some of these guys who aren't like the big name free agents that are actually negotiating major league deals, how those guys move around. Like I remember years ago that one dude, was it Scott Heineman? Like was on like 8 different teams in one off season just because of all of the different moves. So it's interesting to see how those guys move around.
And that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the day, folks. Thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. Tomorrow, we're going to continue to dive in to the Hot Stove League. We didn't get to it today, but there are some rumors that link the Reds to a deal with the Houston Astros that Jeff's not super excited about, but we're going to talk about it anyway. We'll have that for you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Reds so you get all of the latest episodes. You can follow Jeff on social media on the Twitter X. That's at Jeff Carr, Jeff with 3 Fs. You can follow me at S. Offmanbaker. That's with 2 Fs, and you can follow the show at Locked On Reds. There are 0 F's in that, despite how they taught Jeff to spell it down in Alabama. Did Locked On Reds make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social media platform with a screenshot of that Wrapped, and they'll drop you a code for a free month of the Everydayer Club. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club and get your favorite show ad-free in the audio channel and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you over to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you go make your second listen Sully on Locked On MLB. Until next time, we're going to keep you Locked On Reds every single day. That's how you read those spots, buddy. Right there.
You get it.